In a world that glorifies the grind, Selah is a sacred invitation to pause. Every other week, you'll find space here to slow down, listen inward, and remember who you are beneath all the noise. Through guided reflections, soulful conversations, gentle practices, and story-led journeys, Selah, a deep pause, offers rest. Not an escape, not to repress, but as a way to come home. This podcast is for those standing at the edge of change. You know who you are. The seekers, the sensitives, the high-functioning feelers, those ready to honor the quiet and reclaim their own rhythm. So come as you are and exhale. Then exhale again and stay for the stillness. Hello and welcome back to Selah, a deep pause. I am uber excited because I've got one of my dear friends, Samantha Guthrie here, and Krissi, who will always make sure that we just go a little deeper. Today we're excited. We have an idea of what we're going to talk about. We are going to go into flow. Sam and I met in the Tony Robbins world, both in a place where we were successful. But even though we had this success, we were like, there was something in us that was like, felt overwhelming. I call it my enough. I was like, oh. And it's been incredible. It's really incredible when you also meet someone that, you mirrors you back. And then have the opportunity, and honestly, it's just been a gift to be able to watch each other evolve and move and just even be able to remember when, those moments that have just been like, wow. So it's been a big blessing. So I'm just going to start us off with a quick quote and then we're just going to start to tell our story. So this quote's the river. So may we remember that even when the current of life rushes us into overwork and overwhelm, there's always a still river beneath, waiting to hold us. Maybe we pause to listen, to soften, and to trust that the flow will carry us home. So, Sam, what do you want to add to our story?
Well, that was pretty wide open. I probably should give everyone a little context to how I became who I was versus maybe who I am today. But I grew up with a pretty high work ethic and I was very proud of it, very hustler mentality. If it needed to be done, I could trust myself to do it, and I didn't think I could trust anybody else. So I took a lot on, thinking it was the right thing to do. Uh, Really, I ended up alone in my own thoughts and feeling pretty overwhelmed in thinking that I had to earn everything. So I had to earn love, I had to earn money, I had to earn respect, like all the things. And what I hadn't really figured out was that that was all stemming from really a childhood need to be accepted and loved, and that's how the kid in me, figured out that love came from work. And that was great that the kid figured that out, but your 8-year-old self is not going to help you when you're 48. So I really had this huge hustler mentality that led me to overwhelm and feeling kind of stuck. I always say it was like I was sort of discontented. Then that led me to feeling overwhelmed, and then it was all too much, and I had to change my whole life to try to figure out how to get out of where I was. I just felt super stuck, and the idea of letting a lot of things go was so fearful to me that I just continued to cling, and I was clinging to the wrong things, like work, and golly, that wasn't satisfying. Like, who knew? And so it was an evolution, and Laura and I walked that a little bit at the same time. I'm grateful that you're probably a year or two ahead of me on some of that as well. But like watching other people break their original mold was very helpful to me, and that's the kind of thing that I'd like to impart I always say if I learned everything the hard way and I don't share it, then I've learned it for no reason that
Oh.
way. So I'd
Mhm.
rather share it and, yeah, maybe help somebody else because there's really no need to do it the way I did. It's just the way I figured out how to do it. But it kind of sucked and it can be better. And I'm all about that now. So there you go.
Exactly. Well, and it's so much we talked about it so many times where we're like, we really shouldn't have it looked like we had nothing to complain about, right?
Mm.
And yet there was something that was just nagging and something that we were seeking and going and when that moment of hits you, you almost are like, where do I go? What's
Mm.
next? But we it's like that current took us to that moment where we start saying, okay, I can't do the same thing because I live with that way you say overwhelmed and stuck because I don't even know that I saw it that way, but looking back, I
Mm.
was.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see it that way at all at the time. Like,
Yeah.
no, I was just like, "This is what I need to do. This is what I do every day." I mean, just so you know, like, I started my own company, like, 28 some odd years ago. We ran ATM machines across the United States, but it started with 1 machine as a little side hustle, and then it was 4, and then it was 80, and then it was 8,000. So, like, I mean, this is a huge evolution, but I have a sales and marketing background, and for our company, I did, like, compliance, legal, accounting, HR, IT, that kind of thing. And I called it the soul crusher. So probably not the
Mm.
best choice of words for my life's work to call it the soul crusher, but I really felt stuck because there are then other people who were doing sales and marketing or primarily the sales at our company that were not me. So I'm not going to take their job and somebody else needed to do all the other stuff that I was already doing. So clearly I was the best person to do it. I already knew how. So I just kept in my stuckness and I didn't see it as overwhelm
Mhm.
or of being stuck until many, many years had gone by where, and I used to tell people, gosh, I was always in sales and marketing, 100% commission, top 10% of any team that I was on. Like I loved sales and yet here I was like looking at spreadsheets all day. And I used to say, you know,
Mhm.
nobody calls me ever and says, you write the best checks. Your spreadsheet, mwah, was magnificent. Wow, what a spreadsheet. There's like no affirmation anywhere in my life. You know, my husband was really doing the sales and tech support stuff, and people call him like from across the country for advice and he would help them and they'd be like, "You're the best, Mike," you know, and I'm like, "Wah, wah, wah," you know, no one's going to tell me I write a good check. So I spent a long time in that vacuum
Mhm. Yeah.
and
And
not
it's
realizing that's what it was.
well, and isn't it interesting? Like, this is, I think, what we need to chat about is like when we're in it, we don't realize it,
Hmm.
because like you said, our inner child was, I grew up from, not the best, childhood. And so I literally was my survival skills. Well, if you do an extremely good job at something, you're finally going to get that "Atta girl, go!" and that dopamine hit and those affirmations, and so then we get addicted to that until the dopamine, after a while, it's kinda like a drug, right? It kinda stops having its effect after a
You
while.
need more.
Exactly, and well,
But what do
exactly,
I
and
need?
then
More spreadsheets? No. You know,
Well,
that's
it
not going to
becomes
do
your
it.
worth. It becomes your worth.
Yeah,
mhm.
completely. Completely,
Mhm.
Chrissy.
Yeah. No. And so what we really need is it's that when we're noticing that, sometimes we may not know what I don't think either one of like so when you and I met, I want to stick to my eye for me. It was, because you may have had a different experience, but I know for me, it's like, "Oh my god, there's another girl like me out there." The
Mhm.
achiever, and I remember I was not big into relationships with other women. I like to stick with the guys and because it was a place where I thrived and I couldn't relate with women, with a lot of women. And so it was at the moment, it was like, "Oh, there's more people like me." It's like, "Okay, I like this." And, and it was an instant like attraction. But, looking back, I mean, we we weren't admitting it at the moment, but we were both like, we're here because I can't keep doing this the way I'm doing it anymore. We were seeking change.
Yeah, for sure.
I and I had no idea we were
Mhm.
seeking change.
Yeah, I mean, I really I knew I was. So imagine like running ATM machines for 28 years. Literally, all I talked about was $20 bills for like 28 years, right? So it's the soul crushing side of the ATM industry, right? Like that's what I did every day. And at one point, and this is what started it, I was sitting in my office and realizing, gosh, I'm really successful, but I'm not feeling very fulfilled. Like I thought
Mhm.
life would be different at that point. I was probably, I mean, mid-ish. And, and I just thought, wow, I've worked really hard and I do have a lot of like, say, financial success, but like, where are my friends? Where's my satisfaction? I don't know. Like, I felt like something was missing. And, I, of course, had heard of Tony Robbins in the past. I had seen something come across my feed about, yeah, UPW, 3 days, Miami. I was living in California at the time. And
Mhm.
Mike happened to walk into my office and he's like, hey, let's go to, Mexico on vacation. I was like, oh, if you want to go that week, I can meet you there on Tuesday. And he's like, no, I mean, we'll leave on Saturday. We'll come back the next Saturday. And I was like, yeah, if it's that week, I'll meet you on Tuesday. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, there's this thing I want to go do. And I told him about the 3 day UPW Tony Robbins event. And he was like, oh, well, that sounds kind of interesting. And I was like, I am just so sick of the
Mhm.
way I've been thinking. Like, it's just like the same thoughts over and over, like on repeat for all these years. And I just said, I just want a different way to think for a while. Like, I just figured it would
Mhm.
be 3 days of thinking something different and, like a refreshing thing to do. And it ended up changing my, my life entirely
Mhm.
to the better because I met a lot of people that were very passionate about what they were doing. And I was like, oh, life is lived with that level of passion. Like, I've never even known that level of, I was too busy working, frankly, to
Mhm.
bother with passion. And yeah, that's ridiculous. And there's what's your metrics on passion? What's your KPI?
Mhm.
And that's not going to be very helpful. And I wanted a different way to think. And that was it, is breaking out of my own thought patterns, my own negative self talk, my own stuckness. Like none of that was really serving who I wanted to be. They served me initially. Like I'm happy I did them. I'm happy they were there. They helped me get to where I was at, but they weren't really going to serve the me I had become. So that, we're talking almost like a 25 years in business at that point. The me who started the company was not the same me 25 years later, but I was doing the exact same things. This is a lot of things like moms deal with this, right? When your
Mhm.
kids go away. And so they're whatever, 19, 20, even in college, they're pretty dependent, maybe they're in their early 20s and you've been doing kind of the same different. They're growing up, of course, but you've been momming the whole time and now they're gone and you're like, uh-oh,
Mhm.
whoa, there's this whole sort of gap and change that needs to occur for different life satisfaction
Mhm.
because your life has called you into more and yet we're doing the same behavior. Bad
Exactly.
habit, really.
Well, it's like we were talking earlier, we didn't realize it was a calling,
Mm,
which, us responding and finally like taking that initial pause on our current life to take notice and step into something unknown. And
yeah.
it was just that if every little step we took into the unknown, because look at all the things that we've navigated that we'd been introduced, but it was that environment and it allowed us to take one more step. "Oh, you're gonna do it? Shoot, do you even know the outcome there?" Is like, "Oh." And then, you watch somebody do it and you're like, "Oh, they survived." They feel a little more expanded. All of a sudden they're,
Hmm.
you see the shifts and that's I think really what's and we talk a lot about Krissi and I talk a lot about community. And when we get to witness somebody change their pattern or do take a step in a different direction and we witness the shift and the change,
Yeah.
It
our
becomes more
Yeah.
about possibility for yourself when
Mhm,
you watch someone else do it. You go, that might be something I can
Mm,
have, or I
mm.
can obtain, or I can do." And to watch that and go, "Oh,
Yeah. Oh, look what's possible.
yeah,
Yeah.
the possibility is just it's
mhm,
fantastic when
Yeah.
you observe someone going first and you
Yeah.
go, I'm gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna see how this goes for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and then when it works out for them, you're like, "Hey, wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait, whoa, whoa, I could do that for
What
me
did you do?
too."
What did you do?
Yeah,
How
mhm,
did you do
you
it?
know,
How can I
and
do it?
and it requires, a great level of self-acceptance and creativity. Like, you have to be okay trying things, but I think back, like, how many times in your life did you know what you were doing the first time you did it? Never. That's the answer to that one. Never.
Mhm.
Not once. So
Mm-mm.
everything that's new is gonna feel awkward. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying to do it. And there are ways to take baby steps into things as opposed to, like, a lot of times I think I was thinking very black and white about something, like it's 100% this way or 100% some other way, and there's, like, all this huge gray area that you can live in or try something new and how did I feel about that? And I really self-observance is probably the number one. A lot of
Mm.
people journal for that reason. Things come out when you're journaling that you wouldn't have thought to even say or even think, like something will just come right out of you. And then you get to reflect on that. Like that self-observance is like, oh, how did I do today? How did that work for me? Or I called those people and went to that lunch. Did I like it? Was there anyone there I would want to connect with more? Is there some other business thing I want to try? Do I want to take a 3-day weekend twice a month and see what I mean, like, there's a plenty of
Mhm.
world there that's not like I quit my job and I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like, there's a huge gray area to play in, and I think we all get a little
We're on
stuck in our
autopilot.
our definition of
Yeah,
ourselves.
it's like autopilot. You're on
Mhm.
Yeah.
autopilot doing all of the things, whether you like them or not. You just do, 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 do. Want to go to this thing, go to
Hmm.
that thing. But what you just said is taking yourself off of autopilot and saying, why did I enjoy that lunch that I had? Do I
Hmm.
even like the people that I'm
Mm.
hanging out with? Do I even like the job that I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yes, that
Yeah.
autopilot that we're on, mothers with children. You're on autopilot for so many
Hmm.
years,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden, it starts to go away, and you're like, "Wait a minute, what have I built here? Do I even like it?"
Yeah. I keep saying,
Yeah.
like, the habits that got me here are not the habits that are getting me where I want to go, but they're my
Mhm.
habits, so I keep doing them.
Yep, because 'cause they're
And
easy.
so it's like, yeah, it's like that's a habit. Like, even and I had somebody say, like, even breaking little habits. So, like, sleep on the other side of the bed. Like, if
Mm.
you normally take a shower, get dressed, and then brush your teeth, take a shower, then get dre
Mm.
like, just little things that break little habits allow you to
Mm.
start thinking about doing other things differently, and I have tried that, and, like, that's fine, those things work, but they're, like, those pretty ingrained habits that which not just habits physically, but emotionally, and the things you think. And the things you think that have become a habit are actually way more confining than anything physical you can do. So how you
Exactly.
think about yourself negatively, or if you're unsure, what like all the internal speak will keep you energetically attached to whatever you're thinking, and it's not always to your best interest. And that was probably one of the biggest twists for me out of the whole Tony Robbins thing is like you can think about what you're thinking about, and then you can choose to think something else. And you're just like, oh, look at me thinking that. Huh. Yeah, how about I pick something else and I'm gonna think this about that and try that on for a while. You're literally like trying on different viewpoints for yourself. And that is a really great way to break mental patterns.
Yeah. Well, and as we start doing that, we start seeing little glimpses of ourselves and we
Hmm.
start feeling it's like we create this space to start feeling something new. And it's kind of like when you and I met, Sam, initially, like I would not even see it before, but now looking back, I mean, the reason we were where we were is we were also fully functioning in our masculine.
Oh yeah.
Everything was push, 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 achieve, and it was a very masculine role. I We laugh about it so many times that I was like,
Hmm.
Jesus, like oh my lord, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I joke because it's even like attack femininity. Like go. That's not how that
yeah,
works. I'm
exactly.
gonna do it right.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting, you both talked about relationships with other women that you didn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And I find this with many women
mm,
and many of us, I've said the same
Mm-hmm.
thing is that I had better
mm,
relationships with men as friends than I did
mm,
women as friends. And I think that says so much about being so much in the masculine and playing that
Mm-hmm.
role and putting on that mask because that is how you got things done. So then when you were coming up against other women, it felt like you were literally coming up against other women. And it wasn't a friendship so much as a, I
Mm.
don't know how I feel
Well,
about
women
that.
can be very catty, where it's like a man's not typically catty, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up with an older brother, so like I was, hop a fence and take a skateboard and, like ride my bike. And like that was just sort of normal. And so there's probably some of me growing up around an older brother that also allowed me to sort of, get guys. But I always said I was a guy's girl. But I was really just not tapped into like my feminine side
Mhm.
much. And then
Well, it
my
wasn't
softer side.
accepted.
And well, yeah, my dad's a military guy. So he's in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And, growing up, it was like if I did a duty, wash the car, or, like some chore, if I did the thing right, he was like, "Hey, attaboy, girl." That's what he would always say to me, "Attaboy, girl," which is, yeah, like, cute, right? But, like, that would be my little nugget of love. So I learned it was, like, in the doing of something that I would have some amount of love for me or attention to me from him. And so that just really kept me in the pattern of continuing to work really hard as opposed to some other flowy nature or, something that was more appealing to the women around me. I was, kind of performing for love, if you will. So I always just, I think because I was trying to please my dad, me being in my masculine, like that's what you do. It never occurred to me to be some other way. And so Laura, when you and I met, and we were both kind of like trying to break out of it, but that's where we had always operated from. Like that's probably why we hit it off. Right. And then we weren't close for a little while, probably because we were both going through this shift and having no idea like what we were doing or how to do it or how to manage that. And then we came back together sort of in a new way. We were both different people, a couple years down the road, and that is definitely something to mention here as well is change takes time.
Yeah.
And there's no silver bullet and it doesn't happen overnight. And you can want things and keep working on them. And so it's not like some kind of, you've made a decision and then it just happens. There's lots that go into incorporating that into like a new life for yourself, like all those new habits or new ways of thinking. You can consistently battle old things while you're still working on new things. And eventually the old slip away and the new remains. But for anyone to think like, oh, I'm going to get hit by lightning and everything's going to work out, or I mean, I found God in the process of all of this, and it was like, you don't like suddenly believe in God, and you're like, life's great. You're like, oh, it still sucks, but now I have other tools, right? Incorporating all of that, and like, how do you re-become? How do
Exactly.
you re-become
Well,
something?
it takes a hot second to create the current shit show that's going on, right? It took a long time. So unraveling all the parts, that got us
Yeah.
here, and so that we can see them and acknowledge them. And then the hardest part is falling into acceptance of like, no wonder, this I turned out this way, or no wonder I was responding to life this way. And in that, then we start finding each other. And it's just like one of the funnest thing is, I really enjoy with like our dynamic is just like, look at us in dresses and
Ink.
pink. Exactly. It was like that.
What?
I almost feel like we should have worn pink now.
I purchased something pink and called 3 of my friends. I mean, this a few years back, but I was like, "I bought a pink blazer." And they were like, "You go, girl." That's how far back it was.
But, it was just to watch us like soften and play and transform.
Yeah, and I wanna give mad respect to anyone who hasn't done that yet. Like, I was there, I didn't judge me at the time at all.
Mhm.
And actually probably listening to this, if I had listened to this podcast then, I would have been like, "Wow, what a bunch of foo-foo," you know? Like, I don't even know if it would have resonated with me at the time, but, like, there's different ways
Yeah.
we can be as women,
Yeah.
right? So you can be, the, "I'm in charge of this," or, "I'm in flow with that," or, "My husband can deal with that," or, "Somebody else can do something for me," or, "I can accept help, I can receive, I can be seen or heard." Those are all things we get to be, and yet we will pick a lane or two that is comfortable just because we've done it. And then we stay there instead of realizing that comfort can keep you stuck in the same thing over and over instead of experiencing new and fun stuff.
Yeah, it does. And we can both, vouch for stepping into something new is not comfortable. It's scary and it actually creates a ripple of change.
Mm.
I experienced that in, my life, especially in my work. relationships, Ripple was not comfortable. It was like,
Yeah, I sold my company over it. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
That's how I fixed my problem. I was like, yeah, I'm just like not doing this anymore.
correct.
Uh-huh.
Correct. No,
Mhm.
exactly. You know,
It
it's
changed everything. Mhm.
and what has it done? It's created space. It's created space for us to continue to play more and have these different dare to have the conversations of the things that we desire, the things that we actually didn't give ourselves even the space to go into, like, that would really make me feel amazing. That would really serve
Mm,
me. And to be able to step into all these new possibilities and playing from a place of honoring ourselves, you know? And we finally got to the
absolutely.
point of, like, all of us just were talking about it earlier. We finally got to a point where we don't self-criticize anymore for all the crap.
Mm,
It just, I know I call that version of me career girl. And I remember in
mm.
this whole process coming to the point of there's one very specific day and coming to the point of just crying and falling into massive gratitude for how far she had gotten me. And then to be
Yeah.
able to tell her, "Chill in the back seat, relax, kick your feet up, because there's a new version of me that needs to come to the driver's seat."
Yeah. Yeah, I never wanna disrespect the me I had
Mhm,
been. Like, there's no point of that anyway, it's over, right? That's in the
mhm,
past. So, I wanna take all the valuable things that me learned, right? I have a way more wisdom, I have a lot more compassion for other people, like, there are lots of great things that came out of it. But then to acknowledge, like, "Hey, cool, thank you," like, "Thanks, career girl," or,
mhm,
a big thank you to me for sticking through all that. I survived a lot of really crappy things, and they made me a better person, and now I can choose. Now I can kinda choose how I want that to be, and for the things that weren't really fitting as well, that were sort of the habit things, it's okay to let those things go and try on new stuff, and then that was probably the bigger surprise for me, was how much that changed the way that I operate now. So I started really living a life of more inquisition, and wonder and creativity and
mm,
compassion. And that felt really different, than a life of work and spreadsheets and all that. So
mhm.
So Sam, what does that mean for you when you talk about that life? How is it different? So what are you doing differently?
yeah. Well, so look, I did sell my company, and that was on purpose. I actually felt like it had held me back from exploring other parts of myself. Like I was so comfortable. I'm like, I don't have to do anything, and I'll just keep on doing what I'm
Mhm.
doing. And I realized it was a crutch. And so just the mere fact that I was willing to let go of that in such a big way was a big step for me. And then after that, I really began to explore my own feelings. And if you have never written your own life story, I challenge you to do that. So, take a few pages and a few hours maybe and like write your life story, then you reread it back to yourself. And as I was reading it, I mean, this is like actually part of a 12-step program, I don't know, step 4 or something like that you would do this. But it
Mhm,
was, so I'm doing that part and then you reread it back. And I was like, oh, no wonder I screwed that up. Or, like, oh, no wonder I had that pattern. And I'd never looked at my life like that, but it allowed me to have respect for things and then let them go. And that is where I started to be a lot more compassionate to myself and just be like, I don't know, what do I feel like doing today? What's it like to dream?
mm,
What's it like to put down some of the things I've been hanging on to? Like, really,
mhm,
I thought that I was hanging on to them because I was a businesswoman and that's a smart thing to do. And no, I was actually hanging on to them because they were like self-serving
They kept you
of,
safe.
yeah, same, exactly, of being thinking I was safe. And really, that's what I should have been actually afraid of. The thing that I thought was keeping me safe was actually the thing I should have been afraid of. They actually kept me stuck.
Yes.
mm,
And so letting that go and being okay with letting it go, being in groups with people that think different, think bigger or more passion. I mean, that was an element of, Laura and I, like, kinda watching each other do different things and being like, "Oh, she's fine. I go, oh, maybe I'll try that."
mhm,
Like, being around people that are not the usual crowd, that's very helpful. In my case, God came into my life at the same time, and anyone can believe in anything you want, any higher power will do. But,
mhm,
like to think outside yourself and to realize there are other things at play besides literally every thought that's in my own head. That was really helpful to me. In fact, like now I feel energy everywhere I go. I had this huge kind of somatic release of, I say of trauma, it was probably of energy. And I quite literally feel people's energy when I'm near them. I can feel them. I can tap into people. It's been like a crazy experience. I had no idea that energy works this way. I'm still learning a lot about it, but I've been like helping to heal people and helping people work through things just from the acknowledgement of how energy works, which again is something I had no idea about. And this just goes to like the average person. Everything you do every day is either giving you energy or it's taking it away from you. So it doesn't have to be some kind of mystical thing. I just mean like literally the people that you're around are either sucking energy out of you or maybe even giving it to you. And you need to protect your own energy. So the things that you're doing, if they're draining you, you really need to have an awareness about them. And that's really like the first step is having an awareness. What am I doing every day and how is that making me feel? And do I want more of that or not? Because that's where you get to say, oh, well, I'd rather sit at home and read a book tonight than go out on a Friday. You should like tap into yourself and make yourself happy because no one is going to do it for you.
So would you say that in this, and Laura used the word unraveling, which is one of my favorite words, would you say in this unraveling, what you ended up tapping into was more of yourself? Because what you started, what you were doing as you were younger and achieving and doing the things and getting the checkbox and the attaboy girls that you were creating a version of you that was not necessarily you because you were working to please other people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually didn't realize how much of that's actually what I was doing. But if you think, and this is what happened to me, is I thought about my job, my soul crusher job, and I was like, have you ever had a job you hated? I mean, think about it. Have you ever had a job you hated? And
Almost
how
all of them.
long did, yeah, right.
Almost all of
I don't
them.
want to work anymore, frankly. But, if you had a job you didn't like how long did you stay there? 6 months, a year, 2 years? I basically had a job. It was my own company, which is what got me to stay, I'm sure, but I had a job I didn't like for like 25 years. And I was like, why would someone do that? I kind of took me out of it when I was trying to analyze it. And I was like, what would cause someone to do that? Like, why didn't I hire someone? Why didn't I sell the company before? Why didn't I get additional? Like, what would that person have to think, feel, or do, on a daily, like, what would motivate someone to do that? And I was like, huh, if I just look at it from that perspective, not like who was I making the choices every day, but like looking back and going, who would stay in a job they hated for 25 years? I was like, oh, someone who's motivated by what other people think. Like I wasn't like if it was up to me, I would have quit like 20 something years ago, right? So it was like, why was I doing it all? And then when I started thinking, well, some of that was okay because it served me, and some of it wasn't. And it really, there's an unraveling. I call it a misalignment. So the me I had become was misaligned with the life I had created. And so for me, it was a search of realignment. And that takes experiment and facing some fears as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And a willingness to look at yourself, allow yourself to feel, ask the questions. And it's sometimes it's hard to look at that, especially when, I mean, I was in the mortgage industry 30 years. It was hard for me to look at some of those things.
I was too, right? Not
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was doing when I started the ATM company. Was
Mm-hmm.
mortgages. Yeah. 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 And so, some of these things, like when you're successful, it's like you don't want to put that away. But there's different ways. Like the thing I love about entrepreneurship is you actually can build your company any way you want. You get to define your role. And so somebody will be like, well, a CEO does this, that, and the other. Or CFO does blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, but it's your company and you could just not. You could be like, I'm the CEO, but I don't do this and that. Somebody else does that. I hate those things. Like you actually get to define it your own way. But so many people will just say, what's the definition of it? What am I supposed to do? And instead, it's what do you want to do? And how do you create the life that you want? You don't have to own a company at all for this, right? You just have to, what do I like doing? What do I not like doing? And how do I fit in more of what I want? And then that becomes your passion or your barometer, or, the desired outcome that you're looking for is now motivated by more like, how do I feel? Not what's the spreadsheet say?
No, exactly. That's the beautiful question right there is like measure how you feel.
Mm,
Does this feel good? Does this
mm,
company just, surge, this being around these people just like shoot me up into a different, stratosphere where I mean you're just we're we're not it's a new way. It's like almost like we're retraining ourselves to matter. We're retraining ourselves to give ourselves permission to go, yeah, nah, not for me. We're
yeah.
all the little things that we're retraining ourselves to just say is like, yeah, no, not for me. And
Well, and if I was choosing my sorry, not to
no,
interrupt there, but,
God,
yeah, like,
yeah.
if I'm choosing my behaviors based on what I think other people want or how that's gonna work for them, then where was I in any of that?
Mhm.
And so just that simple, like, well, I mean, not everybody was changing their life to make mine comfortable, like, for what I wanted. In
Mhm.
fact, most people don't. And so that was like, if you don't know a lot about boundaries, Cloud and Townsend wrote a book called Boundaries. It has a workbook. Like, everyone should read it. If you don't know about good boundaries, like, it was a key to life that I knew nothing about until my 40s. And it's a way of being true to yourself
Mhm.
and respectful to yourself while communicating that to other people around you, the behavior you like or what you don't. But it starts with you. Like, if I don't have my own ideas of what I'm willing to accept of myself, then I can't really communicate that well with anybody else. So I had to get a handle on myself a little bit better and stop thinking about really, because I was doing so many things based on what other people wanted. And then I threw it out the window. Forget all that. I'm not doing that anymore, and that's scary freedom lies ahead. It's okay. Plus, you know what? You can always go back to the
Yes.
old shit you were doing.
Yeah.
You can always go back.
Mhm.
So what's the risk? What is the risk? If you can always go back to just whatever, wherever but that's when I was like, oh no, staying stuck felt worse
Yeah.
than trying something new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all three of us here are an example of that, you know? So,
Yep.
Sam, in your enough moments as these things were building up for you, and just gonna assume this was, a couple years ago. Did you feel any of it in your body? Like, were there things that were coming up for you in your body or in your health
Mm,
that you find now may
mm,
not be there any longer because you put yourself in the driver's seat, because you took the pivot,
mm.
the pattern interrupt, and did something different? Did that ever show up in your body in any way?
Actually, I think I was actually fighting depression for a really long time and not knowing it. Like, I was a instead of like a functional alcoholic, I was like a
Mhm.
functional depressant. But
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
I think there was sort of this like, I feel okay and okay is okay. So I'll
Mhm.
be okay and let's be okay. And
Mhm.
like, oh, that's
Everything's
like so
fine.
like yeah, and everything's fine and it's okay.
That's right.
And I, now when things feel okay, I'm like, well, that sucked. Like, I want more than that. We're all capable of having more than that, but you kinda have to fight for it,
Mhm.
right? You can't, just stay stuck or whatever, so I do think that, one of the things I had been fighting was sort of like mediocrity is okay. Like, what
Mhm.
was to complain about? I had a decent, relationship with my husband, we had a nice house, I drove a decent car, we had a good like, so I actually felt like I actually questioned why I didn't have more gratitude. It's like, what is my problem? Like, I
Mhm.
like suck at having gratitude to all the beautiful things around me. Like, clearly I have no ability to be thankful for all the things that I have. And so that was actually kind of the wrong way to think of it.
Mm,
I did have beautiful things. I was actually grateful,
mhm,
but there was actually more. And
mhm.
it's the other thought, the
Yes.
being fun, the having friends, the going, having adventures, trying something new, like all of that was missing. And that's what kept me, that's what brought me back alive. And sort of like that being enough, I just remember being like, I can't think about $20 bills one more day. Make it stop. And yet at the same time, that was the trigger, I guess, was, man, I'm doing the same thing every day. Like, isn't that the definition of
Mhm,
insanity, right?
mhm.
You're doing the
Mhm.
same thing over and over and thinking it's going to be different somehow, or,
Mhm.
and it doesn't change unless you do. End of
Yeah.
story. Mic drop.
Mhm.
Like, it's you,
Yeah.
you are battling yourself. Like, you're trying to, in those cases, right? If you're feeling stuck, you're like, enough. And maybe this is a real good key that I figured out was I didn't actually know what to do instead of what I was doing, but I did know what not to do. And that was more of what I was doing.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, because, yeah, I didn't know what to do instead
Uh-huh.
of what I'd been doing. I only knew not to do what I had been doing. So you sit in this limbo land where you're like, okay, these are all the things I know how to do and I've been doing, and they're maybe not satisfying. And I'm not actually sure what's next and what's coming around the corner. All I can tell you is what I am doing isn't working. So I need to not always be picking those things. So I sort of like one by one started choosing a different option and saying, like, like trying something new. And then how did that go? And that's what helped kind of create where I am today versus where I was, is I kept saying, like, I don't really know what else I'm supposed to do, but I do know what I'm doing isn't working. So I need to choose less of that. And then things will evolve, right? That's about the time like the universe will come back to you and be like, hey, here's some new friends. Here's a new job. Here's a trip to go take. Like there's something that will come towards you that sort of pushes you a little bit. And then it's like, I was thinking about doing that. Well, I'll just say yes to this thing then. And it was sort of a matter of, you don't have to know where you're going. You just have to know what's not working and not do it as much.
And being brave enough to try something different because it is
Uh-huh.
not easy. It is not. I mean,
Uh-huh.
now somebody throws you a trip to Miami, I'm like, okay, I guess I could do that. Turning away from a job or turning away from a relationship or turning away from an opportunity that you're like, that's no, this is a no. And then
Mm.
starting to listen to it and really going, oh, wait a minute. Okay. I can start to see a new pattern forming where if I'm listening to myself and my intuition, what really feels good, leaning into what feels good and leaning away to what feels bad, this actually works. I
Mm-hmm.
really like this. Like for me, that's how I feel. I was like, oh, I like this. I'm going to try
Mm-hmm.
it again.
Mm.
And I'm going to try it
Right.
again
Right.
and see how it nets out for me. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it wild? Like I'm hearing you guys like talking about that, and it's just, isn't it wild how it is like we are reprogramming
Mm-hmm.
ourselves to giving ourselves permission to lean into what lights us up. And as we do that, then there's some magic that happens because then there's this feminine side that starts to wake up and starts to pull us in to invite us. It's more like it starts to invite us into a
Mm-hmm.
different way of being. And then that depth and that authenticity that like starts to just kind of sneak out of us like, oh, where did that come from? Right. And but then you see the response and the ripple. And I was like, "Oh, that was okay. I was like, you like that part of me? That was
Yeah.
right. It's kind of like, really?
Yeah.
And then more of it starts to exude, but it's those little choices. And like, I never in a million years would think that, like, even right now, when I just did the giddiness, like, that wasn't in me before. And I love that part of me now.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be okay with being seen, which is actually
Yeah.
something I'm still
Mhm.
working on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was sort of like behind the scenes for a long time. It's like it's really your superpower, right? It feeds you. Like you find your tribe. Like people talk about, find your tribe. Well, you're not going to
Mm.
find your tribe if you're not sharing yourself, or if you're not out there
Yes.
looking.
Yeah,
They're
because you can
not going to
stay in
come
your
knocking you
tribe.
like like you're not going to be home one day and the doorbell
We are
rings and
here.
there's your tribe.
Hello. We have found you. We have a GPS on you. We're just waiting for you to be different. Here we are. Doesn't work that way.
Right? It's
That'd
like,
be awesome.
it's September the
Wouldn't
4th,
it be nice?
2025. And yeah,
She's online. Let's go get her.
right, right. And that has to do with being authentic. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really living an authentically pleasing life. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a liar or anything. I would just mean like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't being
No.
authentic to my
Mhm.
heart. I was being really authentic to my head. And so without being tapped into my heart, then what was I to share? And I
Mm-hmm.
kept thinking like, well, I have a lot of information in my head that a lot of other people know, like maybe how to run a business or how to do the spreadsheet or whatever. Like, so I never felt like that was really valuable for me to share that because I don't know. I like a lot of people do that. They're CEOs, CFO, whatever. Like there are people that's a job. Lots of people have that job. No one has my heart. No one has my heart. No one has my history. Nobody knows my mess. That's my message. Like, nobody knows any of that. And if I'm not sharing that, I don't get to experience me. So I'm just experiencing other people and not sharing me, which stops me from experiencing myself. And so it was through starting to share, well, here's what I think about that, or you know what I thought about the other day? And it could be some crazy random thought that would make somebody laugh.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. It didn't have to have a consequence. It could just be a thought.
Yeah.
And all those were things that allowed me to be like, I like that part of me, or my friends like that part of me, or like I have friends that call me for advice. I've got this difficult conversation. What would you do? Right? And like that's a lovely thing that somebody would think enough about maybe the way I approach things that they would want that level of input, and like what a beautiful way to feel of service to your friends. So but nobody would have known that had I not shared whatever prior to that that made them want to call me. So this is a matter of you expressing yourself so you can uh really experience your own beauty. God made us all different for a reason.
Yeah. That watered down version of you doesn't serve you, nor does it serve anyone else.
Yes, exactly.
But we think it does
Exactly.
because we're trying to fit in. We're trying to fit in rather than belonging.
Yeah. Well, and like think about it. Who do you find the most fascinating? Like it could, like anyone, political or social media. It doesn't even matter. Who is it that you look at that you're like, wow, they're fascinating, or look at that life, or wow, look at all the things they're doing. It's never like somebody who's like Monday through Friday goes to the like office and comes home and reads a book. It's fun being fascinating, but you have to go be it.
Yeah.
And that could just be a part of your life. It doesn't have to be all of it. Like, don't throw everything away. Right? And there's lots of safety. You can find safety anywhere. But the adventure of life lives just on the other side of that safety. And it's okay to dabble in it until it feels more safe.
That's beautifully said. Just dabble in it, because one of the biggest things, like as I'm hearing you, I was tearing up because I feel the emotion, because it's the one of the things that, as a lot of us found each other, as we're seeking, leaning into, taking a different step, is this community that of people that are looking for change. Is it it gave us this platform where I get to show you more parts of me, and then I get to experience how that made me feel and how that made you feel, and then it just like, whoa, all right, there goes one mask, and then you go to the next one, and you just start allowing more of you to be seen. And it's not for everybody. I know I'm not for everybody.
Right. That was the other thing. Like not everybody has to like me. Right.
No, there it
That's
is.
okay.
Exactly. Just we don't.
That's a big one.
That's a big one, right? It's like, I'm not for everyone, but I am for me and for my tribe. I probably took it too far. And then you're like, but you can go. All right, girl.
My bad.
Reel it back in, sister. Reel it
It's
back
like,
in.
oh, oops. All right. You're not ready for that yet. Maybe next month.
Let me know. I'll be right here.
I'll be standing right over here. Come see me.
But
I like that though. But see, even just right there, you weren't like, oh, you're not ready for that. I won't do that anymore. You were like, oh, you're not ready for that. Let me know when you are.
Yep.
Right there. Don't dim your light.
Exactly.
These are things we've all heard.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, I heard that stuff for years and never really saw where I fit in with my own story and then shifting things, but the knowledge is out there. It's the desire, your personal desire to change things or shift things, that you can read plenty of books. That's nice. That'll make you book smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that won't help you do anything until you take action.
100%. The cognitive learning, I remember I started the cognitive learning in 2012. And so by the time I got to actually doing anything, it was like 7 years later. So I had all this knowledge, but it got
7 years.
girl. Yeah, serious.
Just not ready yet.
How many books did you read? I mean, my God.
It was
Try something
ridiculous.
new.
I was committed to like 2 books a month, and then I got
Wow.
committed to the meditation, and I was addicted to meditating and learning all about meditating. It all started in 2012. It wasn't until I chose me in such a big way, which was really Tony Robbins isn't where I experienced all my change, but it was that I bet on myself so big. I mean, because what we paid to be there was ridiculous, right? It was a lot. But it wasn't that act. It was what I remember was I had never chosen me that big. Like I have to spend how much per ticket? Yes. It was like, fuck yes. It was at that point
Yes, and I'm worth it.
yes, and I'm
Yeah.
worth it. And I know that it was that step of going like,
Mm,
I am worth it. That was catapulted everything else.
that's so good.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we're worth it every day, like, regardless of the seminar or the cost,
Yeah.
right? We should
Mhm.
be choosing ourselves like that every day for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's just that we take that one and then we dare to do it again. And we dare
Mm.
to do it again and again. So, is there any exercises do you have for us that you'd like to share with us or
Well, I do wanna talk about, like, your own internal way of thinking can be really a great asset, and it can really also hold you back, and this is for anyone from Tony Robbins who knows Master Co. And it speaks to meditation. You did just bring it up. I do want to say this to anyone listening is I was never into meditation before, but even like a 5-minute meditation on a regular basis, and I do more than that depending on the day, but even just a 5-minute meditation allows me to have a different level of reaction to other things in my life. So I found it really pivotal in helping me kind of step into and face fears and other things is like, I'm still okay. There was just sort of this break. There's something about meditation. So a lot of people think like, oh, that's an hour or 2 hours. I don't have time for that. Like really 5 minutes can get you someplace. So, find an app, find a little YouTube video or something. And in fact, I have one. Maybe I can link it here for you guys. But, there's a way to sort of tap into your heart and brain coherence and meditation does that allows you to sort of operate daily a little bit different. But one of the things Master Co teaches is about when you're having a negative thought, right? It's just a thought for you to observe. It doesn't define you. You are not your thoughts. You're not your body. You're not your emotions. These are things that are happening to you. You are not all of those things. But if you find yourself in a moment where you are actually thinking a negative thought, and I used to loop them like for hours or even days, like I'd loop on some negative thought and just stick with it. You literally can put your hand on your head and look at imagine the words of your thought being on a whiteboard or like a chalkboard and you're going to erase them. So imagine the words are there and you're just going to like by touching your brain, you're sort of like touching like your third eye where you're tapping into your higher self and you're going to look at what you're thinking and you're going to erase them. So just like erase, 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 take this from me. I used to pray a lot. You can pray, you cannot pray. You could just say erase. And I know that sounds sort of silly, but it actually takes the power of the thought away and brings you to a place where it's like, I threw out the idea. I see you there. Now I'm going to thanks for being there and you can go away. And then you move on with your day. And if the same thought pops in your head 5 minutes later, just do it again. And then you'll find over time that those thoughts and those things get farther and farther apart until they are not your normal way of thinking. And I know that sounds a little kooky, but the whole
We like
point is
kooky.
when you get it out of you, right? When you acknowledge something and you get it out, I find, and you need to say this out loud, by the way, is the erase part, because you're actually taking the power of the thought away. So a thought is like in the atmosphere, let's say, right? It's like it's a thing that's existing in your brain. But when you speak it, it's a physical thing. Like it becomes like a tangible thing that somebody can hear. So when you speak the thing and then you're like erase it, you're actually bringing it from the thought world into the actual world, and then you're erasing it there. And like having it lose power. This is also why in the Bible they said like confess to two people and
Mm.
pray with two people and all that. Like the confession is it's like getting the thing that's in you out of you. And once it's out, other people like it loses power. So that is actually just a little technique that I mean, I just used to pray for guidance and protection. Like literally, that's all I would say. I would have a negative thought, and I was like, "Oh Lord, All I need is guidance and protection, guidance and protection, guidance and protection, guidance and protection. Like, and I would do that for like, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I got to take that phone call. And then I'm off to something else. But like for a long time, I was just like, whatever negative thought or the thing that I didn't think I could handle, I was like, look, I'm just going to ask for some help. I'm going to erase that thought from my current mind, and then I'm going to let it go. And those were ways that I really was able to break my thought patterns. And I really feel like that is probably one of the stronger ways to make a shift is you have to start with your own thinking.
Yeah. Acknowledgement, it just seems to come up all the time. We
Mhm.
have to acknowledge. Yeah. And that usually means not to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the power is in letting it go. So when you speak thing, like, right, that like the Bible is a book, but they call it the word. Why is that? Because when you speak it, there's power. And anything you speak has power, good or bad, right? So choose your words wisely. But when you get things out of you, especially if they're a negative thing or something that's holding you back, it actually reduces their power. And so, like, what a beautiful thing. You can be in a room by yourself and speak them out loud,
Yeah.
and they can lose power over you. And
Yeah.
so there's some things worth letting go
Exactly.
or calling into existence.
Well, I think that what we'd all been talking about is, and with sharing our stories is, that change is possible. It feels overwhelming at the beginning. At the beginning, sometimes you're like, where do I even start? Acknowledging one thing at a time and giving yourself permission to choose you where you can. Because I it seemed like a really I guess it has been a long time, but honestly, the amount of change that I know you and I have lived through since
Mm,
from 2019 to now is wild. We are very different people.
amen.
Thank
Sick of me.
Yeah.
Here's another thing though, like, be your own best friend.
Mm,
I like to say that, like if a best friend came to me and said the things I had been thinking in my own head, right? Like if that,
mm.
what would I say to my best friend if they were coming off the way I had been coming off to myself, right?
Or would you
What
say
would
that
they
to other
say?
people? What you say to yourself, would you say to other people? A lot of people are
Mm.
like, "No, I'd
Right.
never say that to someone else."
And if somebody came up to me griping away like the way I would think about things in my head and this sucks and that thing and blah, whatever, I would be like, girl, you're kidding me. You're killing it. Or like, right. Like, so be your own best friend, have compassion and care and, give you, we're actually have all accomplished way more than we're giving ourselves credit for. So, give yourself the credit, but imagine that you were speaking to yourself and then be your own best friend and see what happens. Or call Laura. I mean,
Her
whatever it
numbers
takes.
her number's down below in the show notes.
You ready for change? Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I got enough change to change your mind.
Do you have any other ideas for us, Chrissy, or we feeling how we doing?
No, I think we're great. I think we've covered many different things and given a lot of listeners a lot to digest
Mm.
and think about. So, Sam, this has been awesome.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you for coming and joining us. And I am going to take us through a little closing blessing and believe that in yourself, believe in change. It's possible. It's like and if y'all are even curious, we've got there's so much to share. Laura, Chrissy, Sam, all of us says the amount of change is it's there, but it's because we all chose ourselves in a big way. So, and I love it. So I'm going to try to say this without crying because I really feel like, wow, just taking us in is, I love it. So the closing blessing is called the seed. May we honor the parts of us that hustled and strived, for they carried us to this moment of enough. So we could finally pause long enough to take notice and acknowledge what was rising up. So I invite you now to place a hand gently over your heart and one over your belly and feel the rhythm of your breath moving between them, the rise, the fall, and the in between. Let your body know it can soften now. And as you breathe, imagine the seeds of softness being planted deep within. With each inhale, you water it in. And with each exhale, you give it space to root. And may we bless these seeds now taking root. Seeds that know the real success is not in the doing, but in the being, so that we may become. Blessing you all on your journey. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
ladies.
Sam. Thanks, Laura. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for pausing with me. May what you heard settle gently in your body and stir something true within you. If this episode spoke to your soul, please subscribe and share with someone else who might need this pause as well. Until next time, come as you are, take a deep breath, and stay for the stillness.